you first need to know how a transistor works. A transistor is a small semiconductive switch that acts as a gate. Transistors can either be turned off or turned on. When they're turned off, no electricity will flow through them. But when they're turned on, like the naughty semiconductors they are, electricity will flow through. This means if you hit a transistor gate with an electrical signal, you could measure whether or not the electricity continued to flow or stopped. In other words, you could see if the transistor was on or off. Suppose you labeled an off transistor as 0 and an on transistor as 1. If you had very large amounts of incoming electrical signals, you could theoretically use them to perform math to calculate anything imaginable.
So this is where the first fallacy begins. What do they mean you can use noughts and zeros to calculate almost anything in existence when you're just using noughts and zeros? So if you understand the mathematics of it, it doesn't quite add up. And if you're doing that, you'll see later on it talks about how many transistors they need to do all these calculations. It doesn't make sense at all. And I really want you to look at your screen and your computers and your laptops and your apps and your other thing. And you're telling me that a human being put noughts and zeros and made all of these things happen. They can make your computer switch off, switch on. Like, it doesn't, to me, there's no logical explanation as to how that works. Maybe you could explain it to me, but I don't see it. And then what's worse is that you create a video of yourself using a camera, and then through noughts and zeros, it transforms the image of you onto the computer or the laptop or the phone, and then you can edit it using noughts and zeros, and then add sound and other things using noughts and zeros. I'm like, anyway, to me, when I was younger, I had a book in our family home, which was called something. It was written by a Jewish man, and he talks about how technology is magic, especially computers is magic. I never got to read the book because I was too young, but I will always remember that book.
This is the basis of how computers use the binary number system, and count using just zeros and ones. Occasionally, computers will also count to 2, but this only happens when the computer is in sleep mode and is having a robot nightmare.
So this statement convinces me that somehow they have trapped Mother. And I will say Mother, and I'm not going to elaborate, I'm going to say it like that. They have trapped Mother, and they're using her to create this reality. So she has probably been... Anyway, I won't go into it. You can allude what you would on that. But I am aware now that there is a consciousness that we are not aware of that has been used, trapped, confined, programmed, and is what we're actually experiencing.
The most important piece of any computer is the calculator punching unit, or the CPU. The CPU has millions, billions, or potentially zillions of transistors in it, and uses all of them to perform very complex mathematics very quickly.
Now, I don't think I'm the smartest person, but how can you hear that? Any logical person, I will question if you believe that technology is real and it functions the way that they say it does. If you hear that and you still believe that this is logical, which human being is going to make this? There is no computer. Like, there may be a computer. I'm going to say there isn't a computer, but like, which computer could a human being make that could do this? To me, that is an impossibility. Either we are controlled by the machines and the machines are doing all this activity, or there must be some kind of weird human being with hands that are so tiny that they can make things that are beyond functional or manufacturable by normal things. And this is making me think why America and China are going to war over chips, because chips, and Taiwan and chips, because all of this stuff doesn't seem to make any logical sense. They're practically fighting over the ability to access magic.
The CPU receives input signals from whatever you decide to do on the computer.
And yep, I just want to finish it off by saying you're looking at a parasite network. That is what you're looking at. This is not technology. This is natural nature. This is like spiritual nature. If it's technology, it's spiritual technology, which doesn't really exist. So it's just nature. So you're seeing parasites operating. This is what we all live off. This is the life force of life. But they've created this artificial, like manufactured, controlled. I would say like it's not freeform anymore. It's controlled nature. that they use and program to make this reality the outcome that they want it to be. And that just made me think that the structures that you see is what they use to control nature. So they've just captured bacteriums that they've put in structures, and now the bacteriums are doing and behaving in a way that they want them to do. So in a way, it's like social engineering, but for bacteria. And what it's making me think about is that how the chips look like buildings and streets and roads. So on every level, there is entities that are manufacturing structures that encourage us to behave in certain ways that allows them to function their technology. But truthfully, it's just bacterium, viruses, the building blocks of creation. So technology is not real, it's all manufactured, it's fake. But because we give it so much, it's hard to break free from the programming because we've been programmed ourselves. But because we give it so much power, we use it like it's the only way we can communicate with each other. When we use hive mind, where we communicate with each other anyway, like you might think of something and then it just pops up or in your, like somebody says it or something like that. So we have just given over our power to these devices when we have the power. And actually, what I'm coming to learn is that like not isolation, but like there's a word I'm trying to think of. It's not isolation because you will still be in community with people, but secluding yourself from technology, like going within, focusing on a craft or something like that, that is greater than us trying to be social impacts, like I was going to say impact workers or whatever it is that we call ourselves, social media, content creators, blah, 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 trying to get likes and follows and all these type of things that we work towards. So anyway, I just wanted to say that, yeah, that was what I was going to add. So it is all just, again, fabrication of what nature truly is. And they want us to live in an artificial reality. If you have made it to the end, then you are one of the very few who's able to see my videos. They have shadow banned my videos, both on YouTube and on TikTok. But it is what it is. The information is out there. The hive mind is aware of it now. So I guess that's where we are. And I always want to leave with a little solution. So if you learn the structures, what they are in terms of technology, like on a chip, a motherboard, what the different things, capacitors and resistors and all those things are, and you observe our world, if you look into our cities, you'll see which buildings are representative of each of these things and what they encourage people's behavior to do. And then once we all come to understand this, we can start to behave in a way that stops these things from being effective. But it has to be collective. We can't just have one person do this. All of us have to act in a way that is contradicted to what they've programmed us to do. Now, again, just want to say this here. This is very dangerous information. Do not just go off anything you hear just off the back. Do your research, learn. All I can say is learn. When the time is right to act or do, or even if you don't want to do, if you don't think it is necessary, then, let your God judge and let God direct us on how to go about it. But the system that we live in now is defunct. It doesn't work. It's corrupt. It's controlled by corrupt beings, corrupt organizations, corrupt societies. And so change has to happen. So how we go about change, that's what we need to work out.